Hi, everyone. Welcome to the first ever episode of the Fibro Show. I'm Ginevra Liptan. I'm a physician and I have fibromyalgia myself. I'm also the author of the Fibro Manual.
Hi, and I'm Sharon Waldrop. I'm a board certified health and wellness coach. I have fibromyalgia, and I'm the president and founder of the Fibromyalgia Association. We're celebrating 27 years of service this year, providing support, education, and advocacy.
So we thought we'd start out by kind of introducing ourselves and what the show is all about. We're going to use kind of the 5 W's you learn about in kindergarten, like who, what, when, where, and why. And stay to the end of the video because we're going to each share with you what we think is the most important thing to keep in mind as you are on your fibromyalgia healing journey. Sharon, tell us about your fibromyalgia journey.
Yeah, so I became sick around the age of 23, 24. Previous to that, I had been very athletic and physically fit and, did all to college and worked. And I was actually in my first job outside of college. And I got sick with bronchitis and I never really recovered from that. That being said, I also want to mention that I have a history of a lot of chronic pain growing up as a child. My mom would take me to the doctor and they'd say it's just growing pains. So for me, what I say is around the age of 24, it became full blown after this incident of bronchitis. So it got so bad that I became bedridden. To walk from my bedroom to the kitchen, I would need to take a nap in the kitchen on the floor before I could walk back. Um, and luckily, I did get some information that aquatics therapy can really be beneficial. So I went to a program and it was in a hotel. And so I had to like park in a hotel parking lot and then walk into the hotel and to the locker room. And by the time I got to the pool, I was just in tears because it was so much pain. I was so exhausted. Um, and in the pool is this woman, doing the water exercise, several decades older than me and jumping around. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, what's wrong?" And I said, "Well, you probably never heard of this, but I have fibromyalgia." And she's like, "Oh, I have that." And I was just like, "You do?" And she's like, "Yeah." And she's like, "It'll be all right." And, long story short, I got into the pool and over time got a lot better. And Mary Ann was her name. She helped me found the group that I started. But, she was just like this ray of hope that I really, really needed at that time because up to that point, I wasn't getting very good information. I really thought my life was over. I didn't think I'd get married, have kids, be able to walk and enjoy all the active things I liked doing. Um, and so, anyways, I also did attend a support group, and that wasn't real helpful. Everybody was quite a bit older than me, and they were all like 90% using like walkers, wheelchairs. And I thought, oh man, again, my life is over. I heard about this amazing conference that was happening in Oregon, and I decided to go. My family supported me, and it was doctors and researchers and other fibro patients. And because at this point there weren't really books, the internet wasn't what it is today. And I went and learned all of this great information, learned what the disease was, how people were, working on it and what people were doing to get better. And I met support group leaders from around not even around the country, but the world. And so I came back and decided, yeah, I wanted to start a support group, but it was going to be different than the one that I went to. It's going to be a lot like this meeting I went to, where it's a lot of education, a lot of positivity, even though things are dark. I'm not saying we have to be Pollyanna about it, but be positive. So that's what I did, to get started. And that's part of my journey here.
That's such an amazing story, Sharon. I think about you like alone, flying across country, go to that conference. It's a really brave thing to do.
Oh, thank you.
So my fibromyalgia story starts, I was about the same age, actually. I was like 24, 25, and it was at the end of my first year of medical school. And it was a really stressful time. It was like finals week, and I went to the gym and was exercising because that's what I thought I was supposed to do to reduce stress. And I was doing weightlifting, and I felt as I was kind of bench pressing, I felt something like rip or tear in my neck, and it was the weirdest feeling, but I just assumed that it would get better like other injuries I'd had, as an athlete in high school, so I thought, it's like a sprained ankle, like I sprained my neck, it'll get better. But it didn't get better, and over the next several months, it just got worse and worse, and it was like the whole front of my neck was just, like, on fire, and it was like my neck couldn't hold up my head, like, my head was too heavy for my neck to even hold it up, and then the pain started to spread from my neck to really over my whole body. I started to really notice more fatigue. My sleep, I felt like no matter how much I slept, I still woke up and I felt unrested, unrefreshed. I really I also kinda thought my life was over. It took me a long time to actually get the diagnosis because this was before, um, before the time where doctors were as familiar with fibromyalgia as they are now. So for about a year, I struggled to kind of find somebody that could help, and I just was getting more and more depressed and more miserable, and even though I kept telling myself, like, "This isn't cancer, I'm not gonna die from this," it really felt like my life was over, and I thought, "I'm gonna have to go on disability and drop out of medical school," and I ended up, kind of in a last ditch effort, I took a year leave. I took a year-long medical leave from school, and I just tried literally everything I could think of. I tried all sorts of alternative medicine treatments, and I ultimately actually saw a chiropractor who finally gave me the diagnosis of fibromyalgia. And I remember being like, "Fibro what now?" Like, nobody had talked about that in medical school. None of my classes had mentioned that. And it was really, like, this very eye-opening, like, "Oh, I this is a whole new thing I'm gonna have to kind of figure out for myself." And I remember the piece that, like, really I was so desperate to hear. I really just wanted to know, like, is it even possible to get better from fibromyalgia? Like, I definitely learned very quickly that there was not a cure. It was not something that, I was gonna, like, magically one day it just goes away. But I remember thinking, like, if I could just even talk to one person that I knew got better, that I would have the kind of hope and inspiration I needed to keep going. And I was fortunate to stumble into that person. I was calling a naturopath to try to make an appointment with her, and I said, I'm not sure if you've helped many people, if you know about fibromyalgia." And she said, "Oh, I have that." And what she actually said is, "Oh, I had that." And I was like, "Sorry, did you say had, like past tense?" She was like, "Well, I mean, I still have it, but I'm so much better that I say, like, had fibromyalgia." And it was like light bulb, rainbow moment where I was like, "Okay, it is possible, and all I have to do is figure out how." And I remember thinking to myself, like, if I can find a way to get myself better fibromyalgia, enough that I could get back to medical school, I would really dedicate my career, my whole medical career, my whole life to trying to help other people get better from fibromyalgia. And I'm happy to say that I've been able to get about 70% better from those darkest early days. And that's absolutely why I'm doing this show, is to try to get the message out to maybe if you're sitting there in the dark misery of early days of fibromyalgia, to hear the message that it is possible to feel better.
Yeah. And thank you so much. Man, I'm so glad that you did get better and that you did dedicate your career to helping people with fibro. You've done so much with the books you've written and the conferences and presentations you're doing to educate doctors and patients. So
Thank you.
kudos. It's a
Thank
delight to work
you.
on this with you.
You as well.
Yeah, and so that is the why. So that brings us to the why. And we just want to create the show that we wish we had. And certainly, YouTube wasn't really a thing back then.
I don't think YouTube
So
existed back then.
exactly. So, like, we're hoping that this will be the place you can come to for that education, inspiration, motivation. No, there's not a cure, but you can live life so much better with fibromyalgia if you have the tools and if you know about the resources. And sadly, there's just that information is not, getting out into the community. And so that's what we're doing here on pretty much a weekly basis. We also really want to build community. So we hope to have input from all of you watching. Like, let us know what you like about the show, what we could do to improve the show, and just share your thoughts with us.
Yes, the community piece is so huge, I think, for both of us. And Sharon has been doing this. She's really been dedicated to building community support, educating people with fibromyalgia. She's been doing this for 27 years, and it's really, really an impressive achievement. So I'm really glad to be doing this show with you.
Well, thank you.
So the what, we could kind of describe this show in a nutshell as part vlog, part talk show, and part webinar. And what do we mean by that? So the vlog component is really going to be Sharon and I sharing our real, authentic, raw struggles with fibromyalgia, both past and present. And as part of that, we're going to keep it real. And if we have moments of fibro fog on air, which we totally will, the way I tend to deal with that is by making a joke out of it. That's just one of my coping strategies. So, we're going to try not to be perfectionists about things, but if you hear us have a fibro fog moment, we hope that you will be kind and understanding. I'm sure you will. If you have fibro, you get it. So the talk show component is where we're going to try to keep it a little bit light sometimes, have a little humor, a little bit of sass. And we want to have interviews with guests, including people that have personal lived experience with fibromyalgia, people that have professional experience treating fibromyalgia, maybe health coaches that work with people with fibromyalgia, and even support folks. So people that, maybe family members of people with fibromyalgia. So we really want to kind of showcase all those different aspects and bring lots of different voices onto this show. And the final part is the webinar component. And so you're probably kind of familiar with what a webinar is. There may be PowerPoint slides involved. Hopefully not too many. We're going to try to, not make it turn into a boring science lecture. But what we really want to do is have like bite-sized, useful, informative pieces that are science-based and things that you can actually use to help yourself to feel better. Maybe it's something that you want to bring up with your doctor. Maybe it's a new research, new treatment that is just coming out in the literature. And part of why that's important is because it is estimated to take about a decade or more for information to get from kind of the research medical journals to what's happening in clinical practice. So we want to kind of fast track that information so that you're getting it, a decade sooner, because you don't have time to waste, right? This is your life we're talking about. So that's kind of the overarching piece. So vlog, talk show, webinar. And we do want it to be fun and kind of entertaining so that you might look forward to hanging out with us once a week.
Yeah, when things are kept a little more positive and light, like, you can actually learn better that way. That's part of the health coach in me. So I'm going to be sharing like best daily living hacks for living better with fibro. And honestly, like I said, I saw the difference of, kind of the pity party aspect versus the more positive group. And, my group's been around for 27 years. They like it. And so that's what we want to do here. We want to bring that, to you here on YouTube in the comfort of your own home. So we're gonna be here. Our plan is once a week. We have fibro. Things may happen. We may not be here, but if we're not, we'll put that out to you on YouTube so that that we'll be back with you the following week.
Can we say almost once a week? Mostly once a week?
Right. And if you know somebody struggling with fibromyalgia, please let them know about the show. Like and subscribe to the show. Please drop us a comment down below. Let us know your thoughts on the program. Again, building community, like what can we do to make this show better? What's a topic you want to hear?
Yeah, that would be super interesting to us if you could leave comments, tell us what you might like us to talk about. And I really want to just thank you for giving us a little bit of time with you. And thank you for being on this journey with us. And we look forward to seeing you next week, where we are going to be talking about how to survive the holidays with as few fibro flares as possible.
Yeah, before we go, see, fibrofog may be kicking
Did I
in just
forget?
a little bit. We promised we would share our number one
Oh,
takeaway
see,
for
I totally
living better.
forgot.
Yep. So that's why in this situation, two brains are really helpful. Um, but my takeaway is really that education piece. There, again, is so much bad information out there or lack of information. And so that's what we're going to be doing here. It totally, like I say, that conference is what really turned my life around. You'll hear more about my story to know why that was so pivotal. But I can't say enough about how education gave me my life back. And I hope it'll do the same for you.
Yeah, I can't believe I teased it at the beginning and then forgot to say it at the end. So my kind of tip to keep in mind as you proceed, and particularly if you're in those early dark days of the fibromyalgia journey, is that it is possible to get better. We're not saying there's a cure. We're not saying you're not going to have fibromyalgia, but we both are examples, I think, of the fact that it's possible to feel better, live better, and have fibromyalgia kind of, I like to say it's like kind of on the back burner, and it's not driving the bus of my life anymore. I'm driving the bus. Now,
Completely.
can we finish, Sharon? Did we get everything?
Yeah, and I just wanted to, dovetail on that. Like, yeah, you were able to then finish medical school and go on. I was able to take my chairlift out of my home and go from bedridden to rock climbing, and I'll share more about that later. But so much is possible living well, with fibromyalgia. So we hope you'll tune in every week. You want a little more information? Check our website out at thefibroshow.com.
Oh, what about the Fibro Association website? Are they on Facebook? Did you share that?
Yeah. So we're on Facebook if you'd like to join a community with 170,000 other people who are interested in fibromyalgia. That's at Facebook/Fibro Association. And you can find the Fibro Association online at managefibro.org.
Okay, I promise this is actually the goodbye. We'll see you next week.
Next week. Bye bye.